At the time, it was a pain, but looking back, it's like if I hadn't gone through that, I wouldn't know what I know now, and I wouldn't be as driven, or I would, I never would have gotten really into coding, so better for it.
Just as a comment, that Capstone has been, from my experience, the most transformational course in the program. Just judging what you were like when you entered and what you're like when you exit, in terms of confidence and knowledge of the field that you have.
It really is. It's a confidence booster. I definitely have to say that much about it. Because it's like, it's like you did it. You can be an engineer after you finish.
It's a rite of passage. It is a rite of passage, actually.
You'd be surprised how many ABET outcomes are tied to Capstone and to 371. Those two together probably dwarf all of the math and everything else. There's a value to the program.
I think I would just add, I don't think there's any, there wasn't any deficit. I don't sense any deficit at all coming out of Bothell. In fact, I think, I sense anything, it's got a higher quality of teaching. Class sizes were small and more attention. And the one thing that I wish we had, I think that's coming online now, is the opportunity to do research and stuff.
Yeah.
So talking with people from other schools, they're like, oh, I was working on this research project or that one, and we didn't have that at the time.
How many research students do you have?
Right now, I have 4 undergraduate students doing the research. Each quarter, I think there is averaging 3 or 4 students. So far, I provide about 60 research credit total. So sorry about after you graduate.
Yeah, that's going to be a big deal for us going forward. Anybody's looking forward to having undergraduates doing research. I have not been able to run much research because I have to deal with almost 51 faculty members.
Will the new facilities in this building kind of enable maybe more?
Yeah, we
research?
now have a clean room in this building.
I noticed that in the new E-Lab.
E-Lab, we have
3D printers.
Projects Lab, 3D printers.
That one.
Well, this might be kind of off base, but I've always noticed that signal processing is kind of like in this gray area between electrical engineering and software. And there is a software master's here, so maybe that's an option.
Well, we hired a new faculty member last year. She's traveling now, but she's a signal processing, image processing person. So she's will help a lot of students do research.
So does anybody feel that I need to take more electrical engineering courses, for example?
Like if I could go in the past or like now?
In the past, like I should have taken more electrical engineering courses.
I mean, I think
Do you remember how many courses did you take?
Yes, I remember.
Electrical engineering just.
I mean, I don't remember a specific number, but.
I wish, I'm sorry.
No, sorry.
I wish we'll be able to take more courses in lieu of electives.
Yeah.
I would rather
As
take more
elective,
electrical engineering courses, not electives.
So you took 3 electives. So how many more you wish to take, if allowed?
Elective courses in electrical engineering, as many as I can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, because it kind of prepares you, it lets you figure out what you actually want to do, because electrical engineering is so broad. You know, go into analog, you could go into digital, you could go into DSP, which is practically software. It's like you don't really know what you want to do until you play around in all of them. So to have that freedom to take more of those classes and figure out, this is something I can do the rest of my life, then, that's great.
There's also the two types of students, the ones that want to come in and get their degree hammered out in 2 years, and the other ones that are here to actually learn, and they don't care how long it takes, they just want to keep taking classes and taking classes.
5 or 6 years. So. Can I make one more comment? I think really the analog end of the course is solid. So all the circuits classes, I think they're great. I think as far as doing circuit analysis goes, I feel incredibly confident with it, as well as the other things. But like I said earlier, really my only suggestion is that there just be more embedded type stuff to do. I know we definitely were exposed to it, but I just think that as an option would be a little better.
We'll actually be offering a course completely in Verilog programming next spring.
Cool.
So,
Remember the stoplight.
So I would,
The stoplight thing we had to make.
I'd add, I wish I had a little bit of exposure to kind of power.
we have power courses now that we didn't have.
And we got a new professor teaching those now, but.
We will have 2 professors.
Oh,
Yeah, we
that's
have,
awesome. Wow.
another power guy retired starting in the fall.
From JPM.
Oh.
Very-
Have you guys thought about like an EIT prep course?
Yes, that is something, I actually wanted to ask you about that in another context. And I was gonna get to it later, but since we haven't brought it up. An issue that we find is very troubling is the amount of cheating that goes on. And we're trying to come up with what things that we can do, not so much to be policemen, say, stop you, but to make the students more aware of the fact that cheating is hurting themselves. That not getting the education is in their own worst interest. And so, what I was thinking of doing, or what we were thinking as faculty, was to have an exit exam. Sort of a capstone examination of your coursework. And it could be the PE prep
Yep.
exam, that would be one way to do it. Or it could be just something we made up that covers, it's not like a final exam of everything you ever took, but you should be able to design some simple circuit with gates, or a simple transistor circuit, or an op-amp circuit, or look at a Fourier transform and know what it's doing. So just stuff. Did this course sink in?
So,
Yeah.
Well, I think it's a good idea because it's like, even if you took the classic 2 years ago, you can always revisit it, and it forces you to revisit it.
Yeah.
And then you're out on the job market, and you're actually prepared at that point.
Yeah, it makes you
The
sure.
second you take that
Yeah.
test, you're prepared to take your interview.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, true, but on the same note, there's like some stuff in the courses where at the time I probably didn't understand it, and I'll be like driving in the car and I'll just like, wait, I get this now. Like, it makes sense, like literally like a year later.
Uh-huh.
It took that long to sink in and I'm like, oh, I actually understand this now.
Yeah, I was actually just doing a mechanics problem today, and the problem, I know that if I was faced with this problem as a student, I would have lost my mind.
Yeah.
And now I'm just like, yeah, let's do it.
so I think that idea would definitely improve learning, but I'm curious, if the goal is to reduce cheating.
I don't think in a tactical way it will reduce cheating. People will still copy homeworks and
Yeah.
labs and try to figure out ways that they can cheat on an exam. But my thought is more strategic, that coming in to remind them to keep their eye on the prize.
Yeah.
And to say, we're going to ask you, we're going to give you this exam, and that's your exit interview for the program. So it's preparing you for your technical interviews. But it has a stick associated with it, which is the fact that you don't get your degree if you don't pass it. So there's practical aspects, but
So what happens if you fail it? Is that?
You have to retake it, or?
Okay.
Go back to taking.
Yeah, go back and take 215.
Start over
again, yeah.
Shoot some light.
The reason for students to cheat on the exam form or the verification of the questions, is there a way to make the questions different than the other years? Right?
Well,
some repetition.
some faculty do it like I do. Some faculty just assign the same problems out of the book. We also learned that students have access to the same instructors' manuals that we do, so you assign a problem to the back of the book, the students have the solution.
To be fair though, sometimes that can go both ways, because some people used to just like, oh, here's the right answer, I'm done. But on the same note, sometimes it was helpful, as I know I did that sometimes. I would look up the answers and actually work through it, and that really actually did help to have those type of things. But I know there's too much room for abuse there, but.
Well, how would you have felt if coming in we told you that there's going to be a degree exam that you'll take before you leave the program?
I'll take it seriously.
Yeah.
I'd be taking notes and rereading them
Yeah.
every quarter,
Yes.
well, to stay fresh.
I mean, I think that would really be on the back of everyone's mind.
Yeah.
I think,
A little terrifying.
And also, I found the program to be kind of stressful at times, so unfortunately
Just
that would
at
probably
times.
add.
Just at times.
An extra layer. Yeah, most of the time, that would add an extra layer of stress to it, but, you know, it is what it is, I guess.
I relate to that, especially-
We didn't get art degrees, we got electrical engineering degrees, so.
So, are the exams like the midterm and final, you don't think those are kind of adequately testing people? Because there's probably less cheating going on there.
I would be surprised.
Really?
We had recently had an incident with somebody photographing their exam, their final with a smartphone, shipping it off to the friend looked up the answers, shipped back the answers.
During
Yeah, that's,
Are you
that's
kidding?
not
No
new. People were doing that when we were going there, not to name names, but.
I mean, I gotta say, that's kind of ballsy, but I mean, I don't know.
Ballsy, yeah.
I wouldn't do that.
So if you think if we make this exam in place next year, what should be the kind of style? Is there multiple choice or just like regular exams, and then we test all electrical engineering course you took? Or
So,
what? How does it?
I don't know, the EIT is multiple choice, and then, I mean, you get a big reference book, and you can go through and you can figure out pretty much anything as long as you have the time to do it. I don't know, to me, I prefer the written out questions, the one that you could really show that you do know what you're talking about, instead of, well, shit, I just guessed 25%, I got it.
Yeah.
So really showing that you know what you're talking about, and it doesn't have to be a 1,000-question exam, just.
What about the course? Do we test all courses you took, electrical engineering, all
I
core?
think the
or
basics.
some
Yeah, I think
specific courses?
fundamentals.
Yeah.
Because as long as people know the fundamentals, they can figure everything else out. I mean, if somebody doesn't know vehicles IR,
So what courses?
So,
I've had that asked of, in an interview. It's like, what's I in vehicles IR? Current?
So it looks like the basic circuit courses.
Yeah.
Well, like transistor, like how transistors work.
Yeah.
Not like how to decipher a bug with a filter, but that's what everything else builds off of. So if you're solid in your logic there, then you should be fine everywhere else.
After
Well,
reading all those
so-
laboratories, if one person is graduating and doesn't know how the amplifier works, it's a question. How does an amplifier work? Everybody of graduating from university should have the understanding what transistor is doing with the biasing and.
And I'd like that, like, it should be like a theoretical question, but instead of just like calculate
Yeah.
this or
Yes.
solve this.
that's what I was getting
So
at.
that means you want to gain some in-depth physics behind transistor diode.
Well, it's like.
Well,
in addition
not
to your
necessarily
circuit analysis.
How well can you calculate, or how well can you do this math, but it's like, do you understand
Yeah,
how this
why?
works?
Exactly, anyone can look up an equation off of Wikipedia and figure it out. It's the concepts that are important. And, that would probably be pretty terrifying to have this test where if you don't pass it, you don't pass. And it's based off of, how good your calculations are. I would never do calculations once at work and just send them off. I'm always gonna test them. I'm gonna do validation and verification testing. So I'm never gonna actually do that. So yeah, I agree absolutely that the theory is the most important part. And that might be difficult to test though, because
My
there's a lot
question
more
would be,
than that.
should the courses then be tailored to teach so that people are prepared to pass this final exam, right?
Well,
So if it should be
there's
more
danger in that.
theoretically based, then should, courses spend a little bit more time
Well,
focusing on the underlying principles?
I think you have to leave it to us as a faculty to figure out what to do. I think fundamentally what I'm asking you is, do do you see value in just doing it?
I do.
Yeah.
I mean, I think some people are just bad test takers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was one of those.
But, you know, for example, like one of the
Horrible tester.
courses where you have like 80% of your grade is 2 or 3 exams. I think you switched to going from 2 to 3 and 425 for that reason. But I've kind of been mediocre, like I have been bad days, I guess like everyone. But I worked extra hard and I did extra reading, and you know, I did a lot of focused work on understanding the knowledge that I was taught, and I did very well.
Yeah, exactly. I'm the similar way as well. It's like I might have got the question wrong, but years later I still know the concepts and I can still figure it out. And like I said, if I need that equation to actually calculate it, I go in my computer program and it already has it, or I go on Wikipedia and look it up, and within 2 minutes I'm like, oh yeah, I can figure this out. You know.
So
Even with the test, I mean, the fact of the matter is though, I don't know if it's the same for everyone else, but I mean, after I graduated and I started looking for jobs and I was getting ready for technical interviews, I was going right back to the books and reviewing all this stuff.
Oh, yeah,
You know what I
looked
mean?
at my
So
notes,
it's like,
yeah.
it's like,
I still use
you know what I
my
mean?
notes.
And obviously you're gonna do that for the test, and it almost kind of, like, you know, you don't have, you can skip that whole step after you graduate if you have to take this test, you know? I actually think the test would be really nice if it was actually tailored towards common interview questions.
Only, I want to start here. I learned a vocabulary this quarter when I take 671 because I'm proctor. And Hamilton is giving us the class, Professor Hamilton. So, I asked her, your exam is going to be on proctor. Proctor or unproctor? What is that? There is no one is looking at you, but you can assign a paper that no one is going to cheat. If you find cheating, no mercy. Okay.
Well,
We all-
I could go on for hours about the whole issue, these whole issues, and all really I want to leave it at, it is a problem, we're very concerned about it, because it undermines the value of everybody's degree. And we're trying to come up with really punitive things, we're trying to get to the point where students understand that cheating is not helping them. So that's what all this is about. I'd like to move on. So is the fact that this program is now ABET accredited, has that been important in your employment?
I think so.
I think they just kind of assumed it was ABET.
Yeah.
Honestly,
I
no
think so
one
too.
ever checked, like, oh, can you verify for me that it, or, so.
I actually think it's probably very useful though if you want to continue your education.
Yeah, that's true.
So as far as like going and getting your first job, I don't really think a lot of people check, but yeah, obviously if you want to, really keep continuing on your education, that's probably a really big thing for you.
But I think people may not have checked because it has a UW stamp on it.
Yeah.
I know at Boeing they prefer an ABET accredited program that you graduate from. So I think it is good.
Yeah, because some people have said, oh, well, unless you want to get a PE or work for a few certain companies, it matters, I just get a sanity check. We kind of touched on this, but I'm kind of curious about the capstone program in relationship to it. So here's a few things I want you to think about. Was it worth the effort? Are the things in the program that we could do to improve it? Would you be willing to mentor a capstone team? Vlad has already done that. And if you have mentored a team, so this is kind of directed at you, Vlad, what was your experience? So let's start off with, was it worth the effort?
Yeah. So me personally, I actually got hired on with the company that I did my capstone project for, specifically to continue work on that project. And so that was, obviously definitely worth it for me. And on top of that, even if I hadn't gotten on with that same company, I think just the interaction that I had with actual industry and being able to work with them and have meet with them about what they wanted and what their specifications were gave me an introduction to, you know, the real world kind of job scenario for engineers that I might not have otherwise gotten until afterwards.
Yeah, I think the capstone basically makes you hireable.
Mhm.
I mean, I basically, you know, I basically said that my capstone project was experience because it was, and, you know, you know, so not every student gets to graduate with experience and an actual company logo behind it, you know, so, you know, I think that's a big deal.
Did you, from your capstone, did any of you use your industry mentors as references?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, my industry advisor hired me.
That'll be a good reference.
One of the common questions asked about the capstone was how well did the team work, about the team dynamics, whether, you know, do we all just, because we were stuck together for two quarters?
Or longer in some of our cases.
Yeah. So it was about the team dynamics, how did we figure out who's doing what, and then assigning roles, in which went very well on my team. So that was one of the common questions, just for employers to know how well you can actually work in a team environment and whether you know your place and your role within a team.
That actually was another one of my questions.
Well,
Go ahead, Cody.
I could talk for hours about capstone, but yeah.
yeah, so like what she was saying, to like work with other people, because like in the labs before it was just kind of like, screw it, I'll just do it, or like some people would just kind of like slack or wouldn't want to meet, but like in the capstone it's like, okay, no, damn you gotta get this done, you gotta like work together and find out like who could do what and like build off of each one of their skills or their areas of they've done well in. You can't have any slackers really in there. Well, there's always exceptions to that
That's
one.
true.
And then, yeah, I really like my capstone. I really tied everything that I learned together. And yeah, it sucked when I was doing it, but like looking back, it was like extremely helpful. And like, if we were to have like smaller, more like hands-on projects, like throughout our our time at UW, I think it would really help. Like with control systems, if we're able to like build something.
Yeah, like
use
sensors
some
class was
motors.
good.
Yeah, sensors. You guys had did a project I didn't get. Yeah. But yeah, if we were to get more hands-on and use like perf board instead of just like breadboards.
There's more than that software.
Yeah, PCBs. I don't know.
Well, regarding the stuff about working in a group, things like that, one of the questions I would have is, in general, Bothell places a premium on group work. You look, not just in EE, but a lot of other courses, you work on projects with the other team. And the other is communication skills. If you recall, you're making presentations, you do PowerPoint. Has that, can you relate that kind of training to your job? And
Well,
Yes,
I
definitely.
actually had to do a presentation for my job interview at PACCAR. And I actually used the capstone one, so I was already prepared for it. But they ended up extending me an offer. I don't know if it was a result of the presentation, but you know.
So I think everyone in here probably works in a team, right? So, I mean, those experiences are pretty essential in the fact that we got, you know, something like that in every class. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I did a presentation a couple of weeks ago on a project. Got assigned a project and I had to actually use some of the 371 material just to say, you know, show the benefits, what that we're gonna have. So there's a bunch of calculations, definitely.
so the kind of team stuff you did here, did that prepare you better for the job market and your work environments than perhaps not? I mean, did you get into your job knowing some of the pitfalls of team issues and team dynamics?
Yeah, but I mean, it also teaches you more so how to work with others, because the big complaints that I've heard of other people or other friends who have electrical engineering degrees, and they went to a different school, work at a different company, is that they have the classic mold of what an engineer is, and they kind of just sit to themselves and do their work and don't communicate and just design, write code, whatever, and just they come out of their shell to present their work and go right back into it. And I think out like here, we're completely different in the fact that we're bred to work as a group, and to go into a group environment at work is easy. And it makes us, well, yeah, he's an engineer, but he also does this. And
Yeah, I actually graduated with actually really well-defined opinions of my own about what I prefer in working within a group, you know. Just because I'd experienced it with so many different group members, you know. Like if I were thrown a question like how do I work well in a group, I would say, well, I like working in a group where each individual really focuses on what they do best versus, you know, this is your assigned thing that you have to do. So, you know, I guess the program kind of taught me that, I guess, because I had to work with so many different people.
Picking up on Vlad's point, do you think that, you know, your personal skills and ability aside, do you think you were prepared better for perhaps a leadership position in companies because of the education here than not?
I think I was. And in a way that also ties into, yeah, the education, but also how you interact with others. Because that's what working in groups teaches you, is how to interact with others and how to get others to do what you need to do. Yeah, and I mean, that's what leadership is, right? I mean, that's pretty much just being a person who effectively communicates to others to get project deadlines and deliverables.
Well,
So yeah, I think so.
You were the program manager on the capstone project.
Yeah.
Also a mentor.
Yeah.
I know that it was in my position, but I think as long as you have a basic concept and understanding of what you learned as far as electrical engineering goes, then that shows that you're capable of doing research and learning, because you're never going to know everything. But leadership and communication skills are key in all applications, and so that's what I spent 95% of the time on my interview discussing was managerial and leadership skills.
Yeah. Would you talk about what it was like to be a mentor?
Sure.
Capstone team?
Yeah, I thought it was a great experience. I really tried to, so kind of based off of what our capstone is like, I wanted to make something similar for these kids, or for these students. And they were extremely motivated and dedicated to get the project done. We also, overspec the project and kind of thought that, oh yeah, they should be fine. It should take one of us this long, so it should take 3 of them this long to do it. But then really factor in the school time and the learning curve. So kind of took a hit there, but we also tried to make a project that was going to be as vague and also that would hit on the different classes that they would be going through. Personally, I think, I had a good time with them. I mean, it was once a week we'd meet up and we would talk about design, talk about what to do. I had a good time, and I feel that they also had a lot of, they took away a lot. Like with Steve, I was a reference for him for a job that he got about a week after he finished up. So.
Well, it's a great feeling to be able to give back,
Yeah.
the knowledge you've learned. And I haven't actually mentored, but my initial advisor, Randy, he still does advisement, and so he sends students to me through email or phone. They have my
yes, we would love to have all of you be mentors for future teams.
I would love to, but if I continue at Microsoft, there's no way that's happening with their NDA.
Well, they sign NDAs, as you know. We're just about done. Some of the questions I originally come up with, we actually covered in the discussion. So let me kind of close with this.
Before you close,
Yeah.
one question. Why is it hard, the 425 class for most of the students taking the class?
Which one was 425 again?
425.
I think I noticed quite a few students retook it, before the class again. They were taking it the second time.
Why is it hard?
Oh, that one, yeah. That wasn't that hard.
Wait, what class?
That one was kind of like an exhibit.
Is that the one where someone stole the chips for our lab? So we couldn't finish the lab? Do you remember that? Who does that?
I personally thought 425 was difficult because I think it tried to cover too broad. Like the scope wasn't narrow enough. So like there was some stuff in there. I think there was like there was even stuff. There was like some project management stuff in there. I think.
No. But it was, well, there was some stuff about specs. Design.
Oh, okay. I don't know. I just felt like I felt like the class was almost like it was like 3 sections of like the different
That's
things.
right. And if you pin me to the wall and say, why do you do this? I'll tell you it's because we're on the quarter system and I don't have enough time to teach you what you need to know. And if it was on the semester system, this would not be an issue.
I think you had like 700 slides or something, but we only got through like 3 or 4.
The reason I asked you is, you are teaching us to take something out of the class, any class we take. So, in general,
So what I focused on, or tried to focus on, were the issues about designing a reliable system. And what I provided, and I say it up front, but the students either ignore me or don't believe me, is that what I do is a roadmap through the material, and that I expect that they are going to look at other sources to answer questions. I also feel, why ask a student to spend $200 to buy a textbook that the answers, they can find on Wikipedia or some manufacturer's website, they just look up a data sheet. But what I'm trying to do is get them to think like engineers. They're going to be out in the field. They're going to be out in the field in the after that course.
Yeah.
And so I'm not spoon feeding anymore.
Well, so like I didn't really understand 425 until I started programming on an ARM-based microcontroller. So that was my only thought. I was like, oh man, we should have had a lab with this, because that was how I, when I could really like write to a register and actually see something happening with pins and stuff like that. I mean, I understand that was part of the Z80 and everything, but like when we were doing it, I was just like, it was just a blur to me.
I thought we had a lab. Where we had the chips that had a program on it, and we had to reverse engineer what the program was doing.
Yeah.
And it was some ridiculous for loop.
Yeah.
Yeah. You had to find whatever the jump statement was and figure out how to get through the for loop.
Yeah, but the purpose of it is that you remember what, you might not remember the particulars of the ZA, I don't care. What I do care is that somehow there are these pieces that come together and say, this is how I can use a logic analyzer in my design. That's what I want to do.
Well, one of the things you had said about not spoon feeding us and making us go out and get things is, I've done a couple interviews, and hearing from other people as well, is that's what we look for, is if someone doesn't know the answer to a question, or if their answer to the question is just, Google it, because, sometimes that's all it takes. So it's really important to find people with the skills where they do seek out the answers and seek out the knowledge, and so that definitely helps to not kind of spoon feed the answers, as you put it.
the reason I bring up that question is, if we are comfortable with anything that we do, we study, or we know, if we get something out of it, we're not going to get cheating on anything. Just figure it out, do by ourselves. But if we don't have any idea, we do the maximum we can to pass that test, whatever it costs. So if we get something out of it, if we understand it, we sit down and we give you the best that we can. Otherwise, what is there? We're trying to fish other areas.
One of the other things that I'm always surprised about is the fact no students come to my office to ask me questions. Literally. In a class of 40, maybe I'll get 3 visits during the quarter.
Even for asking,
Serious? I have no idea.
you have to know what you are asking.
That's something you're
For
teaching.
asking, you have to know what you are asking. We don't even know sometimes what you are asking. We can't come to you because I don't know what I'm asking you.
Looking back, I definitely would have gone into office hours more often. I don't know
Yeah.
why I didn't
Yeah.
then. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's a good point. We didn't do it, and I wish I would have. Yeah.
But you had like weekend collaborations with students would show up before exams for like exam prep.
Yeah, I still do that.
Those were good,
Yeah, I
yeah.
think that's, because a couple of courses I took, they actually did like recitation for like one class. So it'd be like 2 hours learning, 2 hours on Thursday, just doing a review on homework questions or something.
Yeah, I do that in 215.
Sometimes you get hit because if you don't manage your time effectively, if you get hung up too much on doing that, then you can't get through all the coursework. And so you end up having to chop off like, again, section of material you can't cover. So.
And I remember there were times when I had to triage as well with homework. So,
Yeah, I mean, as far as picking the brains of professors, I do think at times that, like I could have gotten more out of my education, but it's not, faculty's fault, it's actually my fault,
Yeah.
So I think back, I'm like, man, I should have tried a little harder.
Yeah. Well, that's true. Yeah, I like that.
All right. Before we call this over and then ask you to fill out the questionnaires, is there anything that we didn't discuss tonight that you feel we really need to discuss? That I didn't bring up, that is something that you wanted to talk about or mention or just,
I mean, this was probably just, maybe it was specific to our CAP STEAM group, maybe it wasn't, but the scope of ours kind of got a little too big, and so maybe, I don't know, it'd be helpful to make sure that the scope is very well defined at the beginning of this the capstones with the mentor and the students. Again, like I said, I don't know if that was just specific to us or if other groups had,
Yeah, they want the most they can get,
a
right?
little too large of scope. Well, in our case, ours had a lot of software, which, as I said, was bad at the time, but as a consequence, I got a job because of it, so it's okay.
So actually, I kind of had an issue with the initial advising. I understand that the advisor, it was like her first week or something, but I ended up skipping 271, I think, and that actually kind of set me back. I ended up having to actually stay here not that I didn't want to stay here 3 years, but I definitely didn't have like a clear understanding of kind of what the path to graduation was when I first walked through the door here.
Yeah.
So that's definitely a suggestion. I'm sure you guys are actually better at that now, but it was kind of an issue for me.
Yeah, I have the addition with him. When we come here, it's good to show students, okay, where you are heading to. Do you want to go in the communication field or control field, power, or what's your interest? Depending on that, to show students, okay, if you are going to the communication, these are the courses that are relevant. If you are in power,
Yeah, that would be very helpful.
and that will, students now, they are asking a lot of students, what will I take next quarter? What will I take? That doesn't have much, but if you let them know.
well, we'll be able to do that as we have more electives. We can allow students to focus. Right now, once you have, as you know, once you get through the core, there isn't much time left over for anything else. There's very precious few electives that we have, and we're trying to fix that. Just want to catch that thought. So let me do this. Let me hand out the questionnaires and ask you to fill it out. And then once you're done,
Oh, you want some more? Jeez.
if you need a pen, I have some extras. Students leave at podiums, I just collect. Don't copy from your neighbor.
Oh, darn. Can I use pencil? Yes. How about erasable pen? I think I'm all out of pens. I have a red one, and that's it.
You have one for yourself?
I do have one for myself. I have a pencil. Oh, wait, your luck.
So
I have the wedding
I was
tickets.
able